your gift order. We'll mail a special personalized gift card from you. Call 1-800-257-1257. That's 1-800-257-1257.
This is CNN.
This is Worldwide Update, news without borders.
The trade talks begin in Tokyo. President Bush says dramatic progress must be made. Companies in Chile got caught illegally selling weapons to Croatia. Now the Chilean government is up in arms. The destruction and anger caused by a bomb that was dropped by mistake continues today, almost a year after it exploded. I'm Dave Michaels. Welcome to Worldwide Update. And I'm Rick Moore. Topping our report, the first meeting between President George Bush and Japanese Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa, ended a short while ago. CNN's Mary Tillotson is in Tokyo and joins us now with the details. Mary, what does it look like?
Rick, it's late afternoon in Tokyo, and President Bush's National Security Advisor, Brent Scowcroft, has just finished giving reporters a very upbeat assessment of how the trade talks between President Bush and Prime Minister Miyazawa have gone so far. One of the things, the primary thing the United States has been looking for is not what Mr. Bush has described as piecemeal trade agreements, but an overall change, an overall restructuring in the way Japan does business with the rest of the world. Mr. Bush says what the U.S. wants is a level playing field, open trade in Japan, similar to that in the United States. Scowcroft came out of the day's meeting saying that he thinks the Japanese, at least at the official level, now seem to understand the problems with the U.S. economy and, as Scowcroft put it, exhibit a willingness to come to grips with that. One reporter pressed Scowcroft saying that the Japanese for a decade now have been saying, yes, they know America has problems with trade, and yes, they understand the need to open their own markets, but that it hasn't happened in the way the United States wants yet, and what would make this time different. Scowcroft said that one point Mr. Bush made in arguing for opening up of the Japanese markets is that no trading industrialized nation in the world is as dependent on other markets accepting their products as is Japan, which of course has a very small population itself relative to either the United States or Europe. Mr. Bush also told Miyazawa that never has the relationship between Japan and the United States been so vital and so significant in a world in which Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union are in an economic collapse after the failure of communism. Never has it been so important for the two biggest trading nations in the world, which account for the majority of the world's GNP, to work well together. And another point that augurs for Japanese opening of markets, said Scowcroft, is that Mr. Bush impressed upon Miyazawa that the Japan bashing in the United States and the America bashing in Japan could only worsen if the trade relations between the two countries go worse, and that could run the risk of undermining all of the other relationships exhibited between the U.S. and Japan, including security relationships, the umbrella, the U.S. umbrella, on which Japan has depended for decades now. Rick?
Mary, to follow up on your last point, as you know, President Bush said he wants to iron out these trade differences to prevent tensions from mounting. Do you get the feeling that there is an air of tension amidst these talks?
Certainly the recession in the United States has added an element of tension from the U.S. perspective. Americans were told by Mr. Bush as he left for this trip that it was to produce jobs, jobs, jobs. The pitch Mr. Bush is making here is that free and fair trade will create those jobs in America, but also create a better situation for Japanese consumers by offering them a wider variety of products, presumably at lower prices. There are, of course, tensions for Miyazawa as well, and that almost anything he could offer to President Bush, at least in the short term, potentially would cut into the domestic market that Japanese producers enjoy here themselves. If you open up the Japanese market for food, for rice, to U.S. rice, that means a small percentage, perhaps, of what's being sold here by Japanese farmers would be lost, even though the Japanese do export some of their rice. So there are tensions on both sides, but the pitch the Bush administration is making is that the tensions will worsen if there's not an improvement in trade.
Mary, President Bush wants to keep his job. He's dealing with this reception recession in a political year, and as you well know, his popularity ratings continue to decline. He needs to come home with Japanese trade concessions. Do you think he will?
I think the Japanese, who know the U.S. is their biggest trading customer, will give Mr. Bush something. One of the things that MITI, the Japanese Ministry of International Trade and Industry, has already been talking about is a $10 billion increase in American imports into Japan over the next couple of years. That would represent a reduction by 1/4 of the existing $40 billion trade surplus with the U.S. Whether that sort of particular numerical goal is sufficient is not certain, but at least the Japanese seem inured to the idea that Mr. Bush will take something home with him. They don't want to embarrass him in an election year. He's a president that has done business. He's supposedly a free trader as compared to the Democrat who might run against him. And by the same token, the U.S. does not want to embarrass Miyazawa, who has been a strong ally, a new prime minister who is depending on the success of these talks to keep him in good stead with his electorate as well.
Mary, thank you. CNN's Mary Tillotson reporting live from Tokyo. Dave?
The delicate ceasefire in Yugoslavia is threatening to unravel. This comes just days before UN military observers are scheduled to visit the nation as an advance contingent for a peacekeeping mission. Earlier Tuesday, a Yugoslavian warplane shot down a European Community helicopter that was carrying 5 truce observers. All 5 were killed. The Serbian-dominated defense ministry is shouldering the blame, calling the attack tragic, and vowing to punish those responsible. The attack leads some people to believe that the elements of the Serbian-led army are opposing the ceasefire. The Chilean government is coming under fire for violating an international arms embargo and shipping weapons to the Yugoslavian Republic of Croatia. Chile's leaders are denying any knowledge of the arms sale, and they say they have launched an investigation. CNN's Lucia Newman has more.
Over the last decade, Chile's weapons industry has quietly but firmly entered the international armament market, manufacturing and even inventing high-tech arms and missiles. But the disclosure of an illegal arms sales to Croatia has tarnished not only the prestige of the Army's weapons factory, FAMAI, but of Chile itself.
This greatly damages our international image because, as everybody knows, there is an embargo against arms weapons to be sold to Yugoslavia. And this was done without the knowledge of the Chilean authorities.
5 weeks ago, $6 million worth of weapons, such as these, supposedly sold and shipped by FAMAI to Sri Lanka, were intercepted in Budapest on their way to Croatia. According to informed sources, Chilean authorities were tipped off by United States intelligence amid concern that some of the weapons were manufactured under U.S. license.
Some of that information tells us that in all there would be 6 or 5 shipments of weapons to Croatia, and one of which was found in Hungary.
No one knows for sure if this is the first time Chile has violated an international arms ban, since during 17 years of military dictatorship, the activities of the Army's weapons factory were a closely guarded secret. Chile's civilian government, embarrassed by the arms scandal, has appointed a special prosecutor to investigate what it calls a complex conspiracy. Although the FAMAI factory was the channel under which the weapons were sold, there's strong suspicion that high-ranking Army officers sympathetic to Croatia were behind the illegal sale.
That is under investigation, and it will be one of the basic points to clear by the judges and the judiciary system.
It won't be easy. Despite its obvious ties to FAMAI, the army of former dictator General Augusto Pinochet, who is still commander-in-chief, refuses to acknowledge any responsibility in the scandal. Nearly 2 years of democratic rule in Chile has only made Pinochet more zealously protective of his men in uniform. Even if high-ranking officers are found guilty, the most they will get is a fine, thanks to Chile's Arms Control Act, which was written by the previous Pinochet regime. All of which gives the impression that when it comes to military matters, illegal or not, it's still the Army that's calling the shots here. Lucia Newman, CNN, Santiago.
Coming up shortly on Worldwide Update, a visit to an Iraqi market bombed by mistake during the Persian Gulf War. We will show you what it is like almost 1 year later.
Now you can roll away unsightly debris from carpets, roll away stubborn lint or dandruff in seconds. Clinging pet hair on skirts and sweaters, roll it up and rinse it away. Introducing Magic Roller. It picks it up, you rinse it off, and use it again and again. Don't struggle cleaning old-fashioned clothing brushes or replacing messy paper refills. Magic Roller's permanent silicone surface lasts and lasts. Its space-age roller penetrates so thoroughly, watch it pull the print right off a newspaper, yet it's gentle enough to use on this delicate cashmere sweater. Call or send now, and you also receive this fold-away travel-size Magic Roller. Its magnet-like action attracts dust, lint, and hair just like the big household model. You get them both for only $14.98. Magic Roller is ideal for car seats, mats, and slip covers, fresh and upholstered furniture, lampshades, needlepoint. Pick up dirt, dust, and debris your vacuum missed, and you might not even see. Magic Roller is the best clothing brush on the market. It has hundreds of uses, and best of all, it rinses right off. Call or send to Magic Roller at this address now. You get both home and travel Magic Rollers for only $14.98. Order more than one set and take $2 off every additional set you order. Be sure to order today.
Thursday night, Dominique Wilkins has put the league on notice. This year, the sky's the limit. Catch a star at the top of his game when the Mavericks take on the Hawks. Live at 7:35 Eastern, Thursday night on TBS.
Members of Georgia's new ruling council have traveled to Armenia seeking extradition of ousted President Zviad Gamsakhurdia. The deposed leader fled there after reportedly stealing millions of rubles stolen from the former Soviet Republic's treasury. An Armenian diplomat in Washington says his country has not offered Gamsakhurdia a safe haven, nor has it forced him to leave Armenian territory. The president's overthrow shifted the balance of power, but has failed to restore order in the volatile republic. The new government warns it will use guns and tear gas if necessary to stop further unrest, as Stefan Katsanis reports.
Thousands gathered to rally behind the exiled Gamsakhurdia. A dictator to other Georgians, these people still believe he was the Democrat, not the men who removed him from office.
This government came to power with the support of some intellectuals by using tanks, and these tanks destroyed our hopes.
As they marched across town, they drew some support from the sidelines. But then the new government stepped in to break up the rally. At first, they used tear gas to disperse the crowds. Then they used their guns. The new military government denied it later, but some marchers were injured.
They are killing us. They killed them.
In fact, there are as yet no reports of deaths. There are no pictures to show this, but the gunmen lined up journalists against a wall and confiscated their tapes and destroyed some equipment. Later, these men allowed journalists to film once again. They explained they had orders from the commander of the city not to allow demonstrations, and they insisted they were only firing blank cartridges. The military council later held a press conference where they began by returning the confiscated videotapes and promised there would be no more press restrictions. Then one of the leaders took responsibility for the day's events.
I ordered it, and I will do so tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, because it's a military situation. We ask only for a small thing, no demonstrations and no meetings.
But the look on the faces of those who witnessed the day's events made it plain that people in Tbilisi aren't all sure they trust their new leaders yet. The military council promises civil liberties will come soon, but the committee is made up of many men with different ideas about democracy. The coming days and weeks will reveal the character of this new government and whether it really intends to relax its security grip on the Georgian capital. Stefan Katsanis, CNN, Tbilisi.
The Bush administration is trying to prompt Arab delegations to move more quickly in resuming Mideast peace talks. Arab negotiators have made plans to resume talks with Israel in Washington. Talks were scheduled to resume Tuesday, but Arab delegations stayed home to protest Israel's decision to deport 12 Palestinians following the killing of a Jewish settler in the occupied territories. Arab negotiators say talks will not resume until early next week. Israel is urging its Arab neighbors to resume talks, but a senior Israeli official says the latest round of talks could be short-lived. The Israeli delegation plans on returning home January 15th.
It has been almost a year since the British mistakenly dropped a bomb on a crowded market in an Iraqi town. Much of the damaged structures have been reconstructed, but CNN's Rick Salinger reports not all the evidence has been erased.
At first glance, Fallujah today appears a normal town, 60 miles west of Baghdad. Only the name, the Martyrs Market, and the date, February 13th, 1991, give a clue to the chapter of Fallujah in the Gulf War.
Enemy, bloodshed. Why? 131 man's killed. Why? Why?
What happened here was a mistake, one that took 131 lives by Iraqi count. Dozens more were wounded. It was late in the afternoon when the destruction came. British Jaguars and Tornadoes were on a mission to bomb a bridge over the Euphrates River, what they considered a vital supply route used by the Iraqis. 4 bombs were dropped. The first hit its mark. 2 others fell into the river. But the 4th veered off course, some 800 yards off course into the center of Fallujah. The plane's video camera recorded the smoke in the lower right-hand portion of the screen. The market was crowded at the time. The Iraqis hurried reporters and cameramen to the scene to show the world what had occurred. After an investigation, the British acknowledged the mistake.
There are obviously veins on the bomb that steer it down the laser cone, homing in on the target, and quite clearly in this case, they were not working.
He said if there were civilian casualties, they were sorry. In a war in which the Allies boasted a pinpoint surgical bombing, what happened here can be likened to a tragic case of malpractice that cost more than 100 lives. Nearly a year later, the buildings have been reconstructed, but not all the evidence of what happened here has been erased. People crowded around us to show us what the Allies' bomb had done to them.
We felt safe because the coalition countries promised not to hit the residential areas and civilians.
Uthman Ali lost his father, brother, and cousin. He says the bomb's margin of error was too great. It must have been deliberate. Many survived the bombing, but lost limbs. Many of them were children. Among them, Abdullah Ali. He lost both his legs. Now he spends most of his time at home in a wheelchair. He says he feels his legs are still with him, but he can't go to school and can't play with his friends. This market has been rebuilt, but the scars still remain. Rick Salinger, CNN, Fallujah, Iraq.
When we continue, details of a grisly tribal massacre in southern Sudan.
Remember when cats sang for Meow Mix?
Meow, 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 meow.
Well, now there's an all-new Meow Mix. With flavors cats prefer 3-to-1. If cats sang for the old Meow Mix, what'll they do now? All new Meow Mix. Tastes so good, cats ask for it by name.
Meow.
To say the least.
Something's waiting inside the powerful 486 SX computer. A technology that will make it even more powerful. We call it Room for the Future. Introducing built-in upgradability. Check into it. From Intel, the computer inside.
You, my friend, can use some fun. Big fun. Las Vegas, Atlantic City, cruise ships. But you gotta take this along, the Players Club card. It's gonna save you a lot of money. 25 to 50% off fabulous resort hotels, 25% off meals and drinks, up to 50% off shows and entertainment. Come on. Call Players Club for much more information free. You're too smart to pay full price.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when the club books their flights. Call toll-free now.
The World Health Organization says world governments reported more than 132,000 new cases of AIDS last year. The health agency says that brings the official total of AIDS cases to almost 450,000 since AIDS was first reported in 1981. More than 200,000 of those AIDS cases were reported by the U.S. The agency estimates some 10 million people have the virus that causes AIDS. The number of AIDS cases in the southern African nation of Tanzania increased 6,100 to more than 27,000.
Details are just beginning to surface about a gruesome tribal massacre in southern Sudan 6 weeks ago. 7,000 people are reported killed. CNN's Gary Stryker has the story, but we must warn you, some of the pictures are very graphic and may be disturbing to some viewers.
The victims were unarmed civilians, many of them women and children. Almost everywhere, in an area 100 miles long and 20 miles wide, the mutilated bodies of Dinkas. Their homes are destroyed. Almost 1 million head of cattle stolen or killed. This videotape, shot by relief workers, is the first graphic evidence of the massacre.
The scale of this attack is completely unprecedented in southern Sudan. 300,000 people have lost everything, their belongings, their homes, their cattle. Over 7,000 have been killed.
Eyewitnesses say the killers were gangs of thousands of men, armed with automatic rifles, spears, and knives. They were from the Nuer tribe, long-standing rivals of the Dinkas, who killed with a ferocity caused by centuries of hate.
People were killed, scattered all along where they were running after their cattle, and the bandits were running after them, looting them, killing them. Wherever you resist, you are killed.
The attack was apparently triggered by a split among the SPLA, the southern rebels fighting the civil war against the Khartoum government. Last August, a breakaway faction led a mutiny against rebel leader John Garang. Since then, the SPLA has been divided into 2 factions, fighting each other more than they fight the government. Garang is from the Dinka tribe. The breakaway faction is supported mainly by Nuers. Garang loyalists accuse them of inciting tribal conflict in order to weaken Garang and his followers. Some of Garang's family in his home village were reportedly killed in the massacre. The Dinkas in this area had already lost their crops this season because of torrential rain and floods. Now, most of them are left with virtually nothing.
These people are cattle people. They depend completely on milk. The under 5s and the elderly drink milk, and they depend completely on their cattle. They've lost all their cattle, so a lot of children died and the elderly died because there was no milk in the area. Also, many wounded in the villages. There were no medicines, no bandages, nothing.
Relief agencies are sending in food and medical supplies, but much of the region is inaccessible. Thousands more may sicken and die. Many Dinka women and children were kidnapped by the Nuer. The total number of dead, wounded, and missing may never be known. Gary Stryker, CNN, Nairobi.
Why is it so busy at McDonald's?
It's such a good deal right now. We have 59-cent hamburgers, 69-cent cheeseburgers.
Price is low, it tastes great. Can't beat it.
You name it, we got it. People love us. Check out the prices.
How much is a cheeseburger this week at McDonald's?
69 cents.
And next week?
69 cents.
How much does a 59-cent hamburger cost?
59 cents.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you just said it. Come on down and see us. Prices are great and the food's great. You can't beat that.
Is there more pressure being in a commercial or working at McDonald's?
Being in a commercial.
Thanks to an incredible new development at Pip Printing, you can now get these 4-color jobs for surprisingly few of these 1-color jobs. Full process color. One more reason Pip Printing's the biggest business printer in the world.
Which news network do you watch? CNN offers a comprehensive look at the news with special investigative series, live reports and interviews, and great programs like Larry King Live, Moneyline, and Crossfire. And CNN Headline News takes you around the world in 30 minutes with a continuously updated look at the day's top stories. CNN and CNN Headline News. Whether you watch one or the other or both, we're glad you're watching. And if you aren't, maybe it's time you should.
In South Africa, a radical anti-apartheid group is claiming responsibility for the overnight explosion at an equipment company used by singer Paul Simon. An anonymous caller said the blast was to emphasize that Simon's upcoming tour must be stopped. Stage crews in Johannesburg have been preparing for Simon's Saturday performance. It is to be the first in South Africa since the cultural boycott was lifted. Opponents say the concert is premature because real political reform has not begun. Simon has said he will go ahead with his tour despite threats of violence.
The integration of sports in South Africa is helping to ease black-white relations now that the system of apartheid has been abolished. Jeremy Thompson reports on an integrated cricket team of young boys.
Donald Bailey and Trevor Latlape could be opening the innings on a new era in South African sport. This Under-12 cricket festival is one reason why the country is finally being allowed to emerge from sporting isolation. International recognition is based on the success of such grassroots efforts to break down the apartheid barriers.
We're now seeing each other as cricketers, not as people of a different skin color, and I think that's what it's all about. The boys are already talking about so-and-so is a good cricketer. They're not talking about that black chap.
Youngsters like Donald and Trevor are being brought up dreaming of playing together in the same Springbok team.
Well, it's very enjoyable. We try our hardest to make friends, and they're all very nice people, and it's just fun.
But the sight of these boys playing and living together is still the exception. Cricket, which attracts huge sponsorship, is one of the few sports able to afford an integration program. With sufficient funds, black sports leaders believe they could unleash a wealth of talent and hope.
Our belief is that through sport we can build the future human beings, well respected, and the future fathers of this country. And through that it is to the process of well-balanced society.
Sports organizations, once divided by color, are now uniting. Squash, among the most elite of white sports, has just joined forces with its non-white counterpart. Tennis is already integrating fast, as sport leads the way in developing a new attitude.
We are taking charge of our lives, and a situation of real sharing is beginning to emerge.
But for all the optimism, a rusty trampoline in a township is still today's reality. It could be years before these children compete on equal terms. Jeremy Thompson, ITN, Johannesburg.
You're very good at that. I've seen you do that. That's it for Worldwide Update. I'm Dave Michaels at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
And for the Sticky Wicket, I'm Rick Moore. Thanks for being with us. CNN Sports Late Night coming up next. Hannah Storm is here with a preview.
No silly wickets, Rick. I'm sorry. We don't have any cricket coming up on the show. But what Dan Hicks and I have to bring you in just a few minutes is baseball's Hall of Fame and Tom Terrific. We'll talk about that. Also some terrific basketball. A great team. Ohio State just got a little bit better tonight. We'll explain why. And a guy that said no to the Bucks is now saying maybe. Get the scoop on Sports Late Night coming up.
Great legs.
Thank you.
How do you get them?
I used to do aerobics till I dropped. Then I found Thigh Master. Every single time you squeeze Thigh Master, you strengthen and tone right where you need it. So it's easy to squeeze your way to shapely hips and thighs.
I thought I'd never fit into these jeans again. Thank you, Thigh Master.
I recommend it and use it.
The secret to shapely thighs is exercising these muscles with just the right resistance. This balanced resistance coil is designed to give you results quickly and comfortably. Want to tone your upper chest and